again. It is another Sunday lunch, and we've got another sensational guest joining us this week. I'm John McGilvery.
And my name's Liam Rudden, and as ever, I'll be sitting monitoring Facebook, watching for your questions for Rory Schlein today. John?
Yeah, we wanted to get the most popular youngest member, the most popular young member of the 2003 title-winning side, but unfortunately Magnus Carlsen wasn't available, so we ended up with Rory Schlein. Rory, it's a pleasure to have you along, and thanks for joining us.
No worries, appreciate it. I'm glad this is happening. I really am. I think everyone's experiencing lockdown a little bit different, and it's good just to do things different and everyone catch up, really.
Yeah, as you say, you mentioned lockdown. Obviously, I think you've been busy during lockdown, the fastest delivery driver in Coventry, I'm hearing, as well. How have you been surviving it? Obviously, Natalie's been very busy as well.
Yeah, I said it before in a couple of interviews. Natalie's she was proper on the front line, and myself, obviously, like a lot of other riders, we've just picked up a little bit of work, just to keep us busy. And I've just been lucky enough to pick up the job I had in the winter, and busier than ever. So I think it's just pretty much just trying to keep yourself busy, keep yourself active. If anything, it's keeping me fit as well. So if we do ever get the green light to go ahead, I should be pretty fit anyway.
Rory, we've asked all the other guys over the weeks the same question, but how do you, what is your fitness regime like? How do you keep fit, and what have you been able to do during lockdown to ensure that you are race ready?
Myself, it's been difficult because of the hours I've been doing. Like there was a 4-week period there where I was doing 12 to 14-hour shifts. So the last thing I was wanting to do was, build up a sweat. So, if we do get closer, a lot of riders have floor programs and stuff like that, which you can do at home. And, the academy that we're doing, hopefully, if I get some time on my hands, I'd like to get involved in it. They're doing similar to this, the boys jump in and do floor programs with Paul Suggett. So if I get time and I'm able to do that, I'll join in with that. So, but yeah, it's more or less when you can, you fit it in. Gyms are no longer. But up until the lockdown, I was probably the lightest I've ever been. It was sort of a goal I wanted to do. I wanted to get down as light as I could. And I was the lightest I'd ever been in, probably in the last 10 years. To compete with a lot of these young lads who are so light, it's difficult for lads who stack on a bit of weight, so it was good, it was positive. Everything I'd done pre-season was looking good. So, but like anything, when you become a white van driver, you tend to eat a little bit more sandwiches and stuff like that, and you pack on a bit more weight. So.
Well, John and I were having that discussion the other day, weren't we, John? The older you get, the difficult it gets to lose it.
The harder it is to shift the timber. He's an angry man at the best of times. Never mind putting him behind a white van. He took the horn out of the way.
Look, I'll be honest, there's been a couple of road rage moments, but I won't say what I said, but yeah.
Just briefly, Rory, you mentioned about keeping light and things. Richie Worrell mentioned it quite a bit in his interview about Scott Nichols had opened the conversation about kind of minimum weights on bikes and things like that. What's your take on it?
I don't agree on it. I think it's a sport where it's so raw. I think the bike is what it is, and the rider is what it is. If you want to be lighter, well, get your backside to the gym and lose some weight. I know that sounds, are we trying to be fair? But how far do you go? There's a weight rule on the bikes, which I think is correct. As for a rider, well, I just think that's you. That's what that's your genes, that's your DNA, that's your body type. You need to do what you can to be as quick as you can. So I think if we start going down that route, I just think you just open a can of worms that no one really wants to get involved in. I think keep it as simple as possible. If you're a rider that, you have to go back years ago when Jason Crump was, he was a large framed rider. Then you looked at someone like Yura Campbell, who was slim and weighed nothing. Jason Crump won 3 world titles, Yura Campbell won none. Thomas Golub was quite lanky, but he was very, very tall, so he still carried a lot of weight. So I think what you're doing. I think there's a 10 kilo bracket. I think if you're within that 10 kilo bracket, you can make adjustments to your bike, to your engine, and stuff like that. You do look at a few riders. You know, I look at people like Dan Bewley and Smarslick and all these guys. They're just so light and slender, but these are the kind of guys that, you know, one of their own. They're not, you know, there's not too many out there. But if you watched the racing the other night, you know, Dan Bewley wasn't as quick, you know, where Ty Wolfenden, I would probably know Ty Wolfenden would be carrying 10 kilo more than Dan Bewley at Wroclaw last night, and Ty Wolfenden was absolutely annihilated pretty much everyone. So, you know, weight does come into it, you know, but I don't think it's as important in certain areas of the sport, you know, where you want to start putting, you know, making everyone the same weight. I don't think so. Then that takes out the purpose of setups and engine tuner changing stuff and stuff like that. So.
Good. I'm glad you kept it brief.
Sorry, cheers, mate. You asked for it, I'll give you the answer.
Rory, over the nearly 20 years that you've been racing in the UK anyway, have you seen a difference in approach by riders to their fitness and how they prepare for matches? Has that evolved? Has that changed over the 20 years?
Oh, for sure. I think the first one to bring the proper fitness thing into Speedway, I know that was like a lot of people, where it's come from the Supercross with the fitness and stuff like that. But I think Ty did it the first year he won the world title. He sort of lifted the bar. He was the first one to, like, I remember everyone taking the mickey out of him. He was in the pits at Swindon. I was racing against him, and he was cycling. He had a bike and then he was cycling, and you know, no one thought that year he'd go in and dominate the whole World Grand Prix year, and then boom, everyone starts training and everyone starts taking it to another level. So I think it's good because it is an athlete-based sport. It's very demanding, not just physical but mentally and that. So and I just think, you know, from the time when I come over and I was racing with people like Freddie Schott and Peter Carr and I think it's the time period, you know, like it's no different to football, you know. I think there was a culture then, and now there's a culture now. So I've seen sort of the change, and the pros for it, I think it outweighs everything else.
Yeah. Rory, we've got our first message from one of our fans, certainly. Caroline Watson's asked to say hello to you, and she's asked him about his recent fabulous family tree discovery as well. I know your mum's been heavily into this. Should Liam and I be bowing down to you here, or, you know, is it Sir Rory Schlein or him?
Well, I'm waiting on a lot of missed checks. You know, apparently I am royal blood. I'm also related to thieves as well up your way. Famous thieves. So I don't know what side of the fence am I on. So, but yes, it's my mum's done a family tree and she's traced back to I can't remember the kings and the queens and all sorts of stuff. But it's to the point where my mum's gone back that many generations. I've told her she needs to do a book. Not obviously for me, but just for my kids and my kids and kids, and I think it'd be great. And the time and effort she's put into it, and the things she's been sending me, it's been pretty wild. But I told her, I said, I don't want to hear any more until there's a bit of a gravy train at the end of it. So I've got a lot of backdated bills I need to send out.
We've got a question here for you, Rory, from Stuart Wilson. He says, is there a decade that you would have liked to have ridden in? So I assume pre-2001, is there one particular decade you'd like to be part of?
I'd say I'd like to in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm brutally honest.
Just so you can have the moustache.
I watched a lot of videos. I'm going to say videos because it was videos when I was younger, and I never saw a race meeting on these videos where the stadium wasn't full.
Yeah.
Never, and it was just constant crowd volumes and it just, I don't know. I just think I would have strived in that era. It was all about finesse and a little bit more technique back then, where these days it's all about hanging off it and full gas. And I think I would have liked to have gone, in the 70s.
Let's take it back to the start, Rory. Obviously, in 1974, your dad was the Northern Territory solo champion. That's Lyndon.
Did he write you to? Has he paid you to do this? Jesus. You know what? I've gone through my whole career, and it says that Rory Schlein, son of Lyndon Schlein. I've never been able to escape that, even here in Europe.
Well, there's the thing, is it? Was there any doubt that you would become a speedway rider? With your dad already in the sport, was it an obvious path for you to take? How did you get started?
It didn't matter what form of speedway. I was going to be involved in anything. My family was so heavily involved in speedway in Darwin. All my uncles, my dad, and my granddad, he was part of building like one of the first speedways in Darwin, Bagot Park, and it was just whether you want to say it's in the stars, it was just going to happen anyway. So I took to bikes very early on. I love bikes, and sort of took to the what was going on overseas from a very, very as young as I can remember. I remember we were getting the Speedway stars, every week, maybe 2 weeks behind, but we'd get it. And it was never, I was never, as much as I enjoyed playing cricket and AFL and football and all that, it was always going to be Speedway. And I was laughed at and made fun of at school. I always used to tell my teachers, I'm going to go to Europe and race a Speedway bike. And, they all used to laugh at me and make jokes and stuff like that. But, 20 odd years on, and I did what I set out, I said I would do.
Good stuff. So how did it all come about then when you moving over to the UK and joining Edinburgh? Where did the approach come from? How did it all start?
Well, the first contact we made with anyone from any sort of club in Europe was through, I believe everyone would know, Helen and George Taylor. They would come to Australia in our summer, obviously in your winter, and they'd go down to Sidewinders, which is a junior speedway and stuff like that. And we got to know them, and obviously at that point I was probably the top junior rider in the country. And even before I'd even I'd actually agreed in principle before I'd even I'd done 4 laps in a competitive race on a 500 that I would come to Edinburgh. So it was pretty much early doors. I was only going to Edinburgh, and that was it. A few things happened after that, and then all of a sudden we bit the bullet, and me, my mum and dad, and we come over 2001. And to this day I still can remember it. I've never been so cold in my life, especially press and practice day. I remember the exact thing my dad said to me. I'd done 4 laps at Edinburgh, and it started snowing. And my dad said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I got off, and the only way I could take my hand off the handlebar was that way, because I couldn't open my fingers. It was that cold. And I said, "Yeah, this is where I want to be." So but it was Helen and George that got us in contact with John and Alex and that, and and sort of the rest is history.
Now Liam, sorry, remember one night where Rory had just come back to the UK. It had been kind of late February, early March, and she's just come. I says, "Listen, I'm DJing in Stirling tonight. Come with me." "Yeah, I'll come with you." 2 in the morning. Again, it's February. It's cold. It may even have been snowing at this point or something. So I gets home. He's staying at ours that night. Right, gets the car. He goes, "Do you want to go and open the door?" I said, "What?" He says, "Just like so that I can just get the car and run in the house." I'm like, "You see it?" He's like, mate, I'm freezing." So I've got to get out of the car, get to walk up a path to the house, open the door. As soon as I open the door, he's away, runs into the house, shuts the door, and I'm still outside. I've got to lock the car. The cold never get any better for him.
I've never liked the cold, you know that. Well, mate, I'm surprised you're not going to bring up our journey to Glasgow one afternoon. I told you it was too cold to have the roof down on your convertible.
You remember that had a convertible, mate.
Yeah, you said no. I've bought in a convertible. I'm having it down, and I said it's too cold and it's going to rain. We got halfway.
Yeah, was it to Cumbernauld? Cumbernauld. No, M7. What's that road? M80.
Yeah.
Cumbernauld anyway.
We got halfway there, and what did we do? We pulled over on the side of the motorway. I'm pressed up so hard up against the windshield, so I didn't get wet. You had to jump out of the car and get the roof on. So, you know, I don't like the cold.
Now, I'm getting the impression that when you came, you were only 17 when you came over to Edinburgh, weren't you, Rory?
16.
16. You were 16 when you came over. 16, 17, 18. You obviously fell in with a bad crowd once you got here.
Sort of, yeah. I met a gentleman by the name of John McGilvery. He was a DJ at the time, and apparently, like, my career was supposed to do that. But no, meeting John was fantastic because he gave me an outlet outside Speedway, and John knows Speedway is quite a mental fatiguing industry, and you know, to go out, you know, with all his mates and stuff like that, it was just nice to have something outside Speedway, and I got to meet a lot of cool people, and we did quite a few trips and whatnot, and it was good, and I'm the one. I believe I'm the one that I don't know if a lot of people know this.
Where's he going with this?
Not a lot of people know this, but he was a Glasgow fan.
He
was a Glasgow fan. Now he was a James Greaves fan. He was a massive James Greaves fan.
There's a difference, mate. There's a difference.
So I remember going into your room and there was a Glasgow race jacket.
That wasn't mine. That was Penny's. That wasn't mine.
So I take responsibility from turning him from the dark side to the light.
Rory, how important was that friendship though, and the fact, because you hear a lot of the boys come over, they're away from home for the first time, they maybe get a bit homesick, they don't know anybody. How important was that side of things to you to actually establish you and allow you to become the rider that you became?
Well, like, I was pretty lucky. The situation we were in when I did come over to get to get me on a 3-point average, I come over with my mum and dad. At the time, my dad had punctuality, and there was a loophole through the system where while I was under the age of 18, I was classed as a minor, and then I was able to run on a 3-point average. So my mum and dad obviously come over with me. So I had my mum and dad there for quite a while, which helped a lot, you know, with support, and no doubt, you know, the financial support they've given me over the years. You know, I always had them to fall back on. But then obviously, like you know, we were saying, I met John, and I had so many people that supported me through that early time. And the one thing I will say about the Edinburgh club is that it's so family orientated, and everyone knew everyone. Everyone would do everything you can, you know, to help the riders. You know, I know that time when I was there, if anyone needed a hand, or, you know, it was the fans couldn't do enough, or the sponsors couldn't do enough to make sure you were there Friday night ready to race. So for me, you know, I couldn't have asked to go to a better club because I was supported all the way through. Even, you know, the year I broke my leg, and obviously my whole year was sort of tarnished, and I was still there, made to feel involved, and you know, and still come back the next year. And it was a club that if I'd gone anywhere else, I can't say I would have been better or worse, but I think I don't regret making that decision to go there and stay there as long as I did.
Yeah. When obviously 2003 comes along, it ends up being an enormous year for the club with our first league title. You'd been there a couple of years prior to. I take it you got a flavour of how much that was going to mean to the club, and what was it like riding that year with these guys, with Peter, with Freddie? Because, you know, seeing you guys it all looked like you had a great team bond?
It'll always go down as like my first sort of winning something, mate. I'd won national titles back in Australia, but that was something that I dreamed from a young lad. But watching a lot of people like you can ask Mike Hunter. Like Mike Hunter sent me loads of videos at the time of Edinburgh, and loads of videos are just on Peter Carr. So when I got to Edinburgh, I had this, I saw Peter Carr and all I could see was an aura around him. I thought he was the Duck's guts. And I remember that year, I think it might have been John Campbell said, we're going to pair you up with Peter. It was probably one of the best things that we ever did, because Peter, as much as like people say Peter, was a great team rider, but Peter had this ability to push me. I remember quite a few times we'd be miles in front on a 5-1, and all I could hear was this thing over revving coming in. I thought someone was going to spear me, but it was Peter trying to make me go quicker. He says, "We're not here to dawdle," and he was a big pushing factor, and then obviously to learn off someone like that with his racecraft and his aggression and maybe not his gating. He's not the best gator. But then I had someone on the other hand, Freddie Schott, who was a great gator. And I still remember to this day, I was sat on the turn 3 of the dog track blue fence, and I'd had a really bad night, and Freddie come up to me and he actually put his arm around me and he started talking to me about gating. And it was a funny it was just a funny story how he put it. I won't go into it, but after that I had a different outlook. So I had this whole team that I was learning off, and even people like Wayne Carter about just
how to fight.
No, but Wayne was great in calming everyone down. He had that ability to make people smile. Defuse a situation where people were maybe getting a bit rowdy and stuff like that. And and me and Theo we were more close in age with Magnus as well. So we had that rivalry between me, Theo, and Magnus, and it just had the right blend in the right year. One I'll never forget. The times that but even leading into 2004, there was a point there I had this thing in my head: don't try and trap with Fred. No, don't in heat 13, 15. Don't go with him, because you know where you'll end up. And I'd always cut back in heat 13, 15, because Fred would always more or less put everyone over on the dog track, or more or less stop everyone, and I just cut up the inside. So I learned a lot in that year. In that year alone, I learned a lot. So it was a year that I'll never forget, for sure.
Rory, Andrew Jeffrey asks, is there any regret that you've never come back to Edinburgh for a season in your later career? And have you ever been asked to come back?
There have been moments where it could have happened, but I don't think. Again, averages sometimes don't allow, but I'm not going to say I won't regret it if we don't know what's happening next year, blah blah blah. But what I'm saying is, when you ride for a club, it's not like you go away and you dislike the club. It's not like that. It's sometimes you have a book and a story on your time at a club. That's that. I've been back many times and raced in like benefit meetings and obviously Scottish Opens, and even guested, I think it was a couple of years ago, for Edinburgh. So it's not meant to be. It's not gonna. Edinburgh now have their own number one and high shot, Sam Masters, and got an up and coming Josh Pickering. So they have that other. This is another part, in the story of Edinburgh Monarchs. Not necessarily you should always turn back and bring someone back just because they rode for them. Edinburgh need to build something that they're going to stabilise on for years to come. And sometimes, just because I rode from doesn't mean I'll be great for the club. So, look, if it did happen and everything was right and everything fitted well, I would have probably loved to come back. But at times and different years when there are different rules, sometimes it just didn't work out.
Pammy's asking, Rory, what's your favourite memory from your time at riding at Edinburgh?
Well, obviously, it's got to be the 2003 year, I think. As much as winning my first Scottish Open in 2004, you know, that just year where we, you know, were winning so much away, and it was just, and the support. I remember the support we had at all the away meetings. The riders would stay at the same hotel with the fans, and some of the stories and the gatherings that we had were just special times. And I'll just say that whole year in general was one of my favourites.
Yeah. Sorry, Liam, on you go.
I was going to say, we've got another question for you here from Stuart Wilson. Would you like to go into Speedway management when you retire?
It's going to be difficult when I'm back in Australia.
Business management.
It's never really been something that's, you know, been something I wanted to do. I've done a few guest things, team managers. I did one in Poland once, which was pretty cool. And but no, it's not something that I, you know, like I've got more enjoyment out of what I've been doing with the GB Youth system now. I've got great enjoyment out of it, and you know, the stuff we're doing there is fantastic. And you know, that's sort of where I'm a bit more passionate about, is more the youth side. So that would probably be more to stay into.
Something I wanted to ask you about this afternoon, Rory, was your involvement in No Limits, and I was talking to Liam about this and how it looks like you're giving something back to the sport as well. But I read an interview you did when you said when you came over, there was guys like Simon Stead, Eddie Kennett, I'm trying to think, Lee Richardson, guys like that who were all, you know, real good speedway riders, and you just feel that there isn't that level a guy coming through anymore. So that, hence your involvement in that. What are you looking ultimately to gain from all this?
Well, it was more when I first came over, the pool of British talent was quite big. You know, the clubs and promoters had a choice of loads of British riders. Even Scottish, you know what I'm saying when I say British, even Scottish riders, you know. So what we're saying is we're not going to do this. What we're doing with this program and develop 10 world champions. That you know, our goal is to take what we can see as talented riders and not let them slip through our fingers like they have done in the last decade. Loads of riders. I feel, you know, I look at riders like Edward Kennett. I think the balance he had on a bike, you know, he could have gone on to, you know, I raced with him in Poland one year, and he was, you know, just awesome. So he could mix it with a bit. Just, you know, some lads just lose their motivation. Some lads just lose direction. And this program is to take these lads from an early age and to show them, well, this is, you know, the right way to do it. And these are the things, if you do have these problems where myself, and we bring in people like Scott Nichols, Matty Zagar, even Ty Wolferman comes along, who have lived it, who have made mistakes, and say, look, well, I've done this. This is what happened. We go through everything, fitness, nutrition, riding techniques, mechanical side of things. We try and cover all bases so these lads have a very good knowledge from an early age, so they've got a head start on what's to come. You know, Dan Bewley's one of our guys who started on our program, and you look where he's gone. He's just skyrocketed, and he's still got loads. He's still young, you know, so he's still going to develop in that. But he's had access to so many things that have benefited him. And, you know, we've got lads now like Drew Kemp and Jordan Palin and the Thompson twins and Anders Rowe, all these lads that are coming on. Now, I'm not saying these lads would still be around, but these lads have still got the tools now to progress and get better. And what we're doing, you know, as much as a lot of British promoters won't like to hear it, I'm creating not me, but the program are creating a pool of riders that they're going to flourish in years to come. So hopefully in 4 or 5 years' time, you know, we'll have a huge pool of riders, and, you know, we'll be able, you know, to give people like Simon Stead and Ollie Allen a headache when he comes to pick the side.
I mean, it must be a buzz for these guys having, you know, the Ty Wolfendens and these come along, give them a bit of coaching, because I'm sure when you started out, if heroes of your own like James Greaves and things that came along and coached you, that would have been a huge buzz for you as well.
James a hero, I don't know, but yeah. No, this is why I did it, because I did training schools when I was young. I did Ivan Magent training schools, Lee Adams training schools, and Jason Crump training schools. Even had training schools from John Bolger. So I even had one-on-ones with Neil Street. So I learned a lot off these guys and their techniques and what they did, and I've brought a lot of that all into one. And even now, like, I encourage, and that's why we have so many great backers and supporters, you know, ATPI and Rent Truck and a lot of other guys who have been able to give us the funds to bring like these lads in. And like we just flew in Matty Zager just for the one day to come in, because we've got a couple of lads who are quite tall and quite lanky.
Yeah.
Matty Zager, probably one of the most tallest riders there. He's come in, and we sort of got them lads to shadow Matty for the day and just talk to him and take in as much as they can. And then we bring in someone like Ty Wolfenden, who's great in track craft. We bring in, you know, Scott Nichols, 7 times British champion, who's ridden on all the small technical tracks. He's gone abroad, so he gives you a sense of being British and going abroad and doing all this sort of stuff. It's more knowledge that we're trying to give these lads. And, you know, it's up to them at the end of the day, and I always say this, it's up to them to do what they want to do with it. So if we're giving up the time and we're giving them all this, we expect the same back, you know. And but I think we've been seeing it. We've been seeing the fruits of it with Dan. Again, Drew Kemp last year with Anders Rowe, you know, more or less dominated the National League. We've got the Thompson twins coming on. Jordan Palin will be coming in the championship as well. Other guys are Harry McGurks, and so we are constantly broadening out as well. So something I'm very passionate about. As much as I know I'm going home, but I will be staying involved in some way or another, you know, with the program once I leave.
I keep expecting Liam to dance every time you mention the Thompson twins, but he's not done anything.
I'm on the remember them. Message here from Derek McAnally. He just says, "Go the Roo boy." And Christopher Black, I'm guessing there's a story behind this one, Rory. I'm wondering what the cause of the fracas with Laguta in Sweden was a few years ago.
Yeah, that keeps coming up a little bit. You know, everyone pops their cork now and again. I remember, a lot of people, you know, leading up to that meeting, I'd broken a bone in my hand leading up to it. I'd had a couple of indifferent meetings, and I'd got there, and it was raining, and it weren't great conditions, and I was struggling. I finally get in front. It was more down to that year. Gregory was pretty loose. He's loose at the good time, but he was loose that year. He'd wiped a few people out. He was just on a mission. You know, it didn't matter who you were. He was just taking no prisoners, and it was more the intent that if I had kept going and not shut off, I would have come an absolute cropper. It was blown out bigger than what it was, because the incident in the pits, I was actually pulled off my bike by the Vargana team manager. Hartford's team manager. He actually pulled me off the bike, and as he pulled me off the bike, I've tried to I've grabbed a handful of throttle, and the bike's just gone in and skittled off. So I didn't purposely ride in to hurt anyone. He actually got in a lot of trouble and was fined for that. He was bound to be, you know, doing something dangerous. But the pointing and the little nod on Gregory, that was all me.
Was the voiceover bit, was that added later as well?
It was a heat of the moment thing. Like, everyone's had it. Up until then, me and Gregory well, you know, we got on. But for a lot of people have noticed, back in 2017, I actually rode Gregory's bikes in Poland. I replaced him at Rybnik, and he helped me out twice, actually. and we're good mates now. You know, that it happens in Speedway. Things like that happen in Speedway, and water under the bridge and stuff like that. And you know, for me, it was great. When I say great, because the 2 weeks later, we had Halfers come to Harmaby, and it was a sellout. Every news station was there. It was filmed live, and it was great. You know, we were front page news, and I was just disappointed that he beat me twice that night. You know, I didn't get one over him. So,
no such thing as bad. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Rory, Scott Somerville's asking, what do you love about the sport and what do you dislike about the sport? Strap yourselves in, guys. This could be a long answer.
No, I like it's going to be different for a fan and for a rider. I think what draw, like a lot of fans say, it's the smell, it's the noise. For me, from a young age, you know, when you're on a push bike and you slid your push bike for the first time a bit across the gravel, that feeling, and then onto a speedway bike, that feeling to go sideways at 70 mile an hour with no brakes, is very, very hard to replicate anywhere else. You know, you might say you can do it in a car, but you're confined in a car and you have brakes and stuff. But on a speedway bike, it's different. It is a great buzz, and no doubt I'll miss that, you know, once I'm gone, once I'm finished. But that there, you know, knowing, you know, to do that, you know, and in control against 3 other guys that's the kick I get out of it, you know, the buzz. The thing I hate, well, how long we got? Look, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's always going to be pros and cons and stuff like that. But I just hate that. I find it hard to see how our sport's just been left behind, and you see sports like darts and all these sports thriving. You know, they've moved on with the times. They've progressed. They've adapted, and you know, when you've got a guy entering a fishing competition and earning £25,000 from catching fish, and and it's televised live on TV, and you know, getting more viewing figures in Speedway at times, you just think, where have we gone wrong? What have we done? You know.
I mean, when they find out they can manage to make cricket entertaining, you know, how have they managed to do that? But yet we've left, because I mean, as in Australia, you're on a scale of 1 to 10. How boring is cricket?
Are you talking to a cricket fan here?
I
was brought up on it, so I enjoy cricket, but I couldn't see why cricket was going downhill before when I say 2020 come into it. I took my missus and my kids to a Big Bash game in Adelaide. My missus had never watched a game of cricket in all her life. My kids may have played cricket a little bit at school, but nothing too serious. They walked away from, they wanted to go again. They wanted to go next week. They thought it was absolutely fantastic how they kept the crowd involved, the kids, what was going on. They made it an atmosphere. They made it a carnival feel. So they do more. The cricket side hasn't changed, as in, like, it's still a bat, it's still a ball. You've got to hit it to score runs. The bowler's got to get the ball to hit the wicket or catch it. That hasn't changed from day dot. They've just adapted, you know, how can we make it more exciting? How can we bring more involvement? So it's the same with Speedway. It's still Speedway bikes with no brakes. They're going around 4 times. How can we make it more exciting? And I do say this. You take away the lights, the fireworks, the girls and stuff like that, as in at the darts, you've got 2 overweight men throwing knives at a wall. That's it. That's all you've got. But that's what I mean. So they've created a package where it's so exciting. Yeah. Some of them guys in the rafters can't even see them throwing the darts, but they have a time. So that's what I don't like, that Speedway hasn't gone that direction.
I'm sure something else you don't like, Rory, are the injuries, and I've had a couple of questions here. Now, obviously, you had a big injury in 2015, made the film about the recovery, Addicted to Speed. Dave Harley asks, given the horrible injuries that you have sustained over the years, how do you keep such a positive mental attitude And I would ask, you know, how do you decide to come back after a really bad injury like that? What is it about it that drove you to get back on that bike?
Well, John sort of knows everything I'd gone through, and we had many phone calls about it. But the thing that I was brought up from a very, very early age, and it was something that I remember, and this was down when I crashed my Pee-wee 50 in Alice Springs at my uncle's place. I come back, I'd left the bike on the ground, and I walked back crying, absolutely, you know, crying and stuff like that. And my uncle says, you best go out and go get that bike and start it. So I remember him bringing the bike back. I remember having to drag the bike back, and then he made me not leave until I started the bike up. And that was a big thing. I think that sort of stuck with me for many years. You know, if you fall off, you get back up, you get straight back on the bike. And I think that was just something that was bred into me from a very early age. You know, my dad racing for many years, and he had his, you know, big knocks, and, you know, I remember I wasn't around, but when he shattered his ankle and stuff like that, and it was just something brought up in me. You just dust yourself off and you get up again. And it was sort of the same approach with big injuries. You know, I do remember laying in Poland saying I don't want to ride anymore. You know, obviously gone through what I'd gone through, but as you know, the pain wears off, and you know, you start getting your senses around. And I remember having a conversation with both my mechanic Lee from England had flown in, and my Polish mechanic Peter were there, and they come in. I remember the first thing I said, are the bikes all right? You know, the bikes are all good, they're ready to go. You know, and it was just, they were looking at me thinking, you idiot, you know, don't worry about the bikes. But that was sort of my mindset, you know, that's how I always thought. And that whole recovery period was more down to, I don't want to be told that you have to retire because of that. It was more, I want to go out on my own terms. So that was more or less just to prove that I can still do it. It wasn't I was getting back to win championships or anything like that. I just, you know, I'd spent too long over here just to finish my career on that sort of note. And that was sort of one of the big driving goals. I wanted to come back, and I just wanted to prove I can get back on a bike and be competitive.
You've obviously decided now the time is right, coming up shortly to retire. Do you think you'll miss the sport? Or miss taking part in it?
I'll even miss the bad things about it, because I'll be sat probably on my porch or something having a Canadian club, and I'll even, you know, God, I'd love to be at a rain off right now.
I'd love to be at a wet track moaning about.
Yeah, we can't run. We can't. I'll be.
How can I get up the road quickly?
I will, mate. I will. I'll miss everything about it, because it's given me a career. It's given me a life. I've met my family over here, and so many friends and family, and it will be something that in my lifetime that I can look back on. And, you know, I'm not saying I'll never come back and see everyone, but it'll be, you know, it'll be hard to adjust. Like, I think like any athlete who, whether it's football or who have done it for such a long time, it'll take a period of adjustment. But this Corona deal's really getting me, you know, get me sort of trained up for it. So.
I remember, obviously, everything, there's a lot going on in the world just now. You've just mentioned Corona there. People's mental health is affected by it all, and Speedway riders are having a tough time of it, as we all are. You know, back in 2015, I remember talking to you, and as far as I was concerned, you were done. You were, you know, this was a horrific accident. This was, you could walk. In fact, I remember seeing a video only the other day from 5 years ago, with your physiotherapist and things. And,
yeah.
You know, I remember you being at such and you know, I think it was Dave Harley about your mental attitude. I'll phone Rory Saturday morning, maybe not quite up for it, needing a lift to go in because Saturday's a big day in the motor trade. I'll give Rory a bell, and the next thing you're bowling in at 9 o'clock going, right, come on, we're ready to sell cars. And, you know, I just remember talking to you, and you were so down, it was a horrible place for you. Do you feel that there's a mechanism now for Speedway riders, for people that are in these positions, to speak out and say, look, you know, I'm in a bit of trouble here and I need help effectively. Do you think that mechanism's there?
Again, like I go back to the youth program. That's we have that support program there for all these lads. You know, Tom Brennan, you know, who again, he's an up and coming talent down from Eastbourne. He had a really bad leg injury. You know, lost most of the other season. I think last year. So you know, we kept tabs on him, you know, and tried to help him as much as we can. And even he went out to Australia, did some summer winter riding out there, and so we have that for the young lads. But I know there's a helpline now for people who are, so I can't remember the name of it, to be honest, but there is the helpline there for people who are suffering, you know, mentally and stuff like that. Like I said, the sport is so mentally draining and so high demanding as well. I remember that year was more. I was having another year where I think I could maybe be knocking on the door of a DP. Like I was riding well in Poland, riding really well in Sweden, and in England as well. And I just thought, you know, everything was good. Everything about that year for me at the time. I'd had my testimonial. I'd felt I'm in for a good. There was something I had in my mindset. I was going to have a good year, and that happened. And I was sort of like, I don't know if I can go through this again. I'm spent. I really am spent. And with what they were telling me, that at the time I might not have full use of my right leg, and you know, with the nerve damage and stuff. And I do remember the phone, and it was just literally, I just don't know if I've got it in me to go through that whole process again. I'd had the back injury before in 2005. The leg injuries, the shoulder injuries, and I just thought, I just don't know if I've got it in me. And with a family as well, my mind was just not there. But then, like I said, after a few days and going through that whole process, but even getting back to England and thinking, can I do it? Can I really do it? But that's what was driving me. And not everyone is wired the same as me, so people may need the support. But yeah, I think there should be some sort of support there, and I think clubs could probably do a little bit more. You know, have someone there. I'm not say like a life coach, but someone, you know, who's involved with the riders, who can develop a relationship with them. You know, it's something that can possibly be put together.
Rory, how cathartic for you was making the film?
You need to tell them what that means, mate.
How important was making the film, and how did that help you come to terms with what was happening and aid your recovery?
Well, we did it through obviously my sponsor at the time, Sky Energy Drink. We thought it would be a good idea, and at the time, it was more that people didn't realise how bad the injury was, and I just thought, well, we'll do this, and we did it, and it was, the physical side was hard, you know, with all the rehab and stuff like that, talking about it, going back through the whole process of laying there on the track and not having feeling in your legs and stuff like that. But the hardest part was the day when I come to do the filming in the workshop, because the night before Darcy had crashed, and I was trying. I was in such a state at that night. I was trying to ring the film company at the time to cancel, because I just didn't want to do it. I just said, look, I don't want to do it just now, and I couldn't get hold of them, and I knew this was costing money, so I had to go. I had to drive from Coventry to Kings Lynn to my workshop to go and do this filming, and they straight away could see I was not, in a good place, and they said, "Oh, I said, "No, I'm here now. Let's get it through." And if anything, it made it a bit more raw. It made it more, it right there. And it was hard, obviously, but at the time, as much as I was talking about my own, issues and stuff, my mind was elsewhere, thinking of Darcy and knowing sort of certain things he was going through, I went through. obviously the outcome was different, but what I mean is it was just that at that time it was sort of, I was just getting my mind right, and it was difficult. It was difficult, but I'm glad I did it, because it showed people what it takes to come back from a serious injury, and the emotions of everything that goes with it. It's something I can always look back on. My kids can look back on. This is what I had to fight back from.
Yeah, I like it as well, because I can say I've got a mate that's a movie star, so it's good. But going to this year, Rory, we had a conversation a few days ago where you certainly felt positive that there would be some Speedway this year, okay, in a truncated format or whatever. What's your thoughts on getting on track in 2020?
I think it changes from day to day. Like I was on the phone to my brother this morning, and then I was actually I'm so frustrated seeing every other country seem to be progressing better than us in this deal. I think I want to stay positive because I want to ride my bike, but I just don't see where it's going to go. I'd like to see racing. I believe there are contingency plans and numerous fixture choices they can do, especially in the Premiership. The Championship's a little bit different, I guess. I know yous are under different regulations as well in Scotland through your Parliament. So there's so many things to take into account, and it's actually quite, frustrating. You're waiting to hear something, waiting to hear good news, and I just want to keep my fingers crossed, and hopefully we can get some sort of league racing going. It was great to see some race. I know it was behind closed doors, and here in England we cannot operate like that. We know that. You got to be a fool if you think we can operate without fans in this country. I just hope this net. Once we get through this month, the next stage, hopefully we'll have the good news, and we can get something planned in August.
You mentioned your brother there as well, and the Schlein family name isn't going anywhere in Speedway. Little Blake's out there doing his thing. When do you expect him to be signing for Edinburgh? I
had a conversation with him earlier in the week, I think it was, with my brother about Blake, and I said, he's going to have to get used to the clutch and all that. He said, no, give him time. 4 days later, there he is. He's doing gate starts, and I just thought. And I said to him this morning, I said to my brother, I said, I'm going to have to hurry up and retire before he starts getting better than his uncle. He's progressed a lot further than I did at his age. So, and not many people know that, if they ever go and see it. I might share some videos. The actual junior bike he's riding is my very, very first ever junior Speedway bike, which my dad built for me.
Your dad built that, yeah.
So it's pretty special, just in our family terms. It's cool to see him. He was riding at Mildura. I think it was today or yesterday, it was really cool to see. And look, we where Blake goes, if he needs help, I'll be there. And but like my other nephew Cameron. He's into the go-karts, dirt go-karts heavily. So there's a lot of things he can go into from there, and the Schlein and Brooks name and the Eakins name, and it's just full of motorheads, mate.
So, looking back, obviously we're coming up towards the end of the hour, Rory. Looking back, you were meant to go back to Australia this year. That's been put on hold. What's been the kind of highlights of your career then? Obviously, the 4 times. But I meant to mention that as well. Richie Worrell said in your quest for your 5th Scottish Open, you nearly sent him for a hot dog in that last corner. You put him that far wide. Is still plans then for a 5th Scottish Open title?
Yeah, I don't know. Mike Hunter says I got that 5th one, but I'll take that on the chin. No, if I was to send him for a hot dog, he'd have it down his throat. No, look, Rich knows. To be fair, Rich is probably one of the hardest riders in the championship. So, you know, he's given it as much as taken it, and he's someone you can give it, but he will you know, reciprocate that. But he's a rider you can ride hard with, you know, be hard and safe with. So you know, Richie's the type of guy, he's the type of rider I like racing against, because you know you're going to get a hard race. So, but as in for the 5th, you know, there was a bit of concern that this year I was going to miss the Scottish Open this year. So maybe, hopefully, John and Alex puts on a day where I'm not riding and I can have another pop at it. But highlight of my career, it would probably be the ELRC I won, the first one I won. That was pretty good with the lineup that was in it. You know, that as an individually, it was a pretty special night. Obviously, winning the leagues, you know, with Coventry and Edinburgh, they're all special when you win such prestigious trophies and leagues and stuff like that. You know, so there's quite a few there. Just I've been lucky enough to win quite a few big meetings, and obviously lucky enough to, you know, race maybe not in the Grand Prix, but get to the point where, you know, we're knocking on the door and racing World Cups and stuff like that. So, you know, I've been there, I've done it, and you know, lots of memories I can take away.
Well, Rory, I would certainly like to thank you for all the memories I've got of you riding in blue and gold. And I suppose on behalf of a lot of fans, we will never forget that 2003 win, because it was our first big league win, and it's something incredibly special, very special year. Do you have any messages that anything you'd like to say to the fans?
It's just I'll never forget it. I'll never forget my time in racing for Edinburgh. You know, even when I did move from the glorious city, which is called Falkirk, down to Rotherham. Obviously, we did that because we were doubling up with Bellevue at the time, and you know, it just made the logistics sides a bit easier. It was such, you know, them years weren't about making money. If you want to, it was about just racing and winning. As much as I was still learning and stuff like that, it was really, really about glory, you know, about, you know, what we did, and I don't know if the current Edinburgh riders understand when we used to go to Glasgow. I don't know, when we went to Glasgow at that time, it was very, very tense,
hostile,
I would say. And you know, I enjoyed it. You know, it was so cool, and I got the sense of derbies and stuff like that. So, and then it was great because I took that, and when I went to Coventry, I had the same feeling. You know, with the club I race for now at Wolverhampton, it was something early on. I was told by Colin Pratt, and we must beat Wolverhampton, and you know, I was able to respect people through that process, and just the experience. It's so hard to my gratitude to everything that I learnt and experienced through that time, and the fans that supported me, and some probably still do. I know I might have lost a couple in 2017 when I single-handedly knocked Edinburgh out, maybe. I don't know, I can't remember. Yeah. But look, they'll always hold a special place in my heart, Edinburgh, and you know, I'm very grateful for the time.
Yeah, I think when we've been interviewing the 1 to 7 that Christopher Black's left, all 7 of them, and no doubt that his feelings and the fans' feelings on early derby matches with the Tigers. So I think they're all pretty clued in that they're the team to beat on every occasion. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat. It's just coming up there now, Rory. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know Pez and Kemp and Aldo and Edie and all that had said to say hello to you as well. The boys, we're all missing you up here. It's been brilliant, mate. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it, mate. It's been great.
Not a problem, mate. We'll be back next Sunday where we have another Monarchs legend. This time with slightly older than Rory. We're going to be speaking to Bert Harkins next Sunday at 12 o'clock. So make sure you join us then. Rory, once again, love you like a brother. Thanks very much for joining us, mate. And we'll see you soon.